I woke up in my grandmother's old house and realized my husband had brought me here to die. But he didn't know I'd overheard every word of his phone call about stealing my inheritance. Dear viewers, please leave a comment below telling me where you're watching from. Enjoy the story and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. My name is Emma Whitaker, and this story began when my life fell apart. A stroke hit me out of nowhere at 34, right in the kitchen of our suburban Chicago home. One moment, I was cooking David's favorite breakfast, eggs and bacon, and the next, the world spun, and I collapsed onto the cold tile floor. My right arm felt like lead, and words stuck in my throat, as if someone had stolen them. I remember every detail: the smell of burning bacon, sunlight streaming through yellow curtains, the sound of a plate shattering, and that terrifying silence in my head as I tried to call for help but couldn't make a sound. David found me an hour later when he came back for forgotten papers. His first words weren't, "Emma, are you okay? But damn it, now we'll need insurance. And what's that smell? Did you burn breakfast?" He stood over me, clutching his leather briefcase, his face showing more annoyance than fear. I should have known then what he was planning. In the hospital, the doctors explained I'd had an ischemic stroke. A clot had blocked an artery in the left side of my brain. "Mrs. Whitaker is lucky," said Dr. Richardson, a tall, gray-haired man with kind eyes. "The stroke happened young and the damage isn't severe. With proper rehab, she could recover 80, maybe 90%. "What does maybe mean?" David asked, his voice carrying something odd, not hope, something else. "It depends on the patient," the doctor replied. "Her willingness to work on recovery, family support, quality care. The brain is remarkable, Mr. Whitaker. It can form new pathways, bypass damaged areas, but it takes time, effort, and belief." David nodded, but I saw his jaw tighten. Belief, effort, family support, all things he had no intention of giving me. I spent a week in the hospital. Physical therapists, speech therapists, and neurologists came daily, making me say simple words, move my fingers, try to hold a spoon. It was humiliating and painful, but I saw progress. Words came easier. My right hand started to obey. "See," said Sarah, a young physical therapist with short red hair, "you're already so much better than day one. By the end of the month, you'll walk without a walker. Just watch." But when David visited, he only saw what he wanted to see. "You look so weak, darling," he'd say, holding my good hand. "These exercises are exhausting you. Maybe you should take a break." "No," I'd struggle to say, "want to recover." Of course, but no need to rush. Each visit left me feeling worse, as if he was draining my energy, and on the 7th day, Dr. Richardson said I could be discharged. "Keep up the exercises at home," he instructed. "Physical therapy 3 times a week, speech therapy twice, and lots of support from loved ones." "The doctor says you need rest and care," David told me as we sat in his car in the hospital parking lot. "I think it's best if you stay at your grandmother's house in Vermont. It's quiet, fresh air, no city stress, exactly what you need." My grandmother's house. I hadn't been there in 10 years, not since Grandma Rose died and left it to me. An old Victorian on 15 acres in the small town of Milford. David always pushed to sell it. "Why keep that dump in the middle of nowhere?" he'd say whenever property tax bills arrived. "We could get good money and buy a condo in Miami." But I couldn't let it go. That house held my childhood memories. Summers at 13 after my parents died, Grandma's hands teaching me to plant roses, the smell of apple pie from the kitchen, her voice humming wartime songs over the old radio. "I don't want to go," I rasped, struggling with words. "Emma, be reasonable," David said, patting my head like a child. "The city's too stressful. Cars, noise, chaos. You'll recover peacefully there. I'll visit every weekend, I promise." His voice dripped with care, with love. If I hadn't known him for 13 years, I might have believed it. But something inside screamed, "Don't do it, don't agree." Yet I was weak, scared, dependent on him. So I agreed. The 4-hour drive to Vermont was silent. David barely spoke, occasionally glancing at me with a strange look like he was appraising something for sale. I dozed against the cold window, each mile pulling me further from civilization, from anyone who could help Dot. When we turned onto the familiar dirt road, my heart sank. The property was overgrown with knee-high grass, paint peeled off the house, shutters hung by a single hinge, and the porch sagged. The place looked abandoned, hopeless. "See? Nice and quiet," David said, helping me out of the car. "No one will bother you. No one will bother you." Those words echoed in my head, and I only understood their true meaning. Later, David hired a caretaker through a local agency, a woman in her 50s named Gloria Steins. She arrived that day in an old blue Ford and took charge immediately. "All right, Mrs. Whitaker," she said, avoiding my eyes. "Here's your schedule. Breakfast at 8, meds at 8:30, lunch at 1, dinner at 6. No deviations, no walks without permission. Rest is what you need." She was cold, detached, performing her duties like a machine. No words of comfort, no attempt at conversation. When I tried to get out of bed or step onto the porch for fresh air, she stopped me. "The doctor said bed rest," she'd repeat. "You can't overexert yourself." But no doctor had said that. In fact, the hospital encouraged movement. David stayed 3 days, setting up my life. He removed all phones except one landline in the downstairs living room. My cell phone broke. At least that's what he told me. He also took my laptop for safekeeping. "You need a break from technology," he said. "Focus on recovering." Before leaving, he had a long talk with Gloria in the kitchen. I couldn't hear their words, but I saw him hand her a thick envelope. "Extra payment for special care," he told me later. "I'll be back soon, darling," he promised, kissing my forehead. "Listen to Gloria. She knows what's best." And he left me alone with this cold woman in that desolate house. For 2 weeks, I stayed mostly in bed in Grandma's old upstairs bedroom. Gloria insisted I sleep there, though the guest room downstairs was more practical. "It's quieter upstairs," she said. "Fewer distractions." From the bedroom window, I could see the overgrown garden where Grandma's roses, special English ones her mother brought in the 1920s, once bloomed. Now only dry stems and weeds remained, with vines choking the old gazebo. Gloria brought me food 3 times a day, always the same. Bland oatmeal for breakfast, canned soup for lunch, white bread with butter for dinner. The portions were tiny and I was constantly hungry. "The doctor said you need a light diet," she'd say when I protested. "Your stomach's weak from the illness." That was a lie. My stomach was fine. But every time I argued, she'd reply, "Your husband was very clear about what's best for you. He loves you and worries about your health." David called every evening at 7. Gloria brought the phone to my room and stood there listening to every word. "How are you, darling? Feeling better?" "Want to go home," I'd say, my speech worsening from lack of practice. "Soon, Emma, soon. Give yourself time to recover. Gloria says you're still very weak." "Yes." Gloria would nod. "Very weak. Barely gets out of bed." That was true, but not for the reasons they claimed. I was weakening daily. Lack of food, no exercise, isolation. It was destroying me faster than any illness. By the end of the 2nd week, I could barely walk from bed to window. My muscles atrophied. My head spun from malnutrition. My speech grew slurred. I was starting to realize I was dying. Slowly but surely, then everything changed. It was Wednesday, the 3rd week of my confinement. I lay in bed, listening to Gloria clatter in the kitchen below, preparing her meager lunch. Rain drummed on the roof, gray light barely filtering through dirty windows. Suddenly, the phone rang downstairs. Gloria answered. "Hello? Yes, Mr. Whitaker, it's Gloria." David was calling off schedule. He usually called at night. It was only 2 in the afternoon. Something was wrong. I strained to hear through the floorboards. "Yes, sir, everything's going as planned," Gloria said, her voice carrying a tone I'd never heard. Conspiratorial, pleased. "She's very weak, barely gets out of bed. I'm doing exactly what you said. Minimal food, no exercise, complete isolation." My heart stopped. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Of course I understand how important this is for you, Mr. Whitaker," she continued. "You said it needs to look natural, and I'm making sure of that. Another week or 2 of this and, well, Weak heart after a stroke. Complications from depression. No one will ask questions. I couldn't breathe. David was planning my death, and this woman was helping him. Yes, sir, I understand the timing, Gloria went on. Once it's done and you get the inheritance, once you handle the formalities, my job's complete. This house and land are worth a lot, especially if sold to those developers you mentioned. A new shopping mall will bring in big money. A shopping mall on my grandmother's land, where her rose garden and apple trees stood. Don't worry, sir, Gloria said. By the time anyone asks questions, it'll be too late. I'll get my share and disappear. I have a sister in Mexico. No one will look for me there. The call ended and I heard Gloria hang up. Then her footsteps on the stairs. I lay still, pretending to sleep as she entered with a tray, another bowl of watery soup and a piece of dry bread. Lunchtime, Mrs. Whitaker, she said in her usual flat tone. But now I knew the truth. Every spoonful of that soup, every bite of bread was bringing me closer to death, not because it was poisoned, but because it was too little. David wanted me to waste away, to make it look like a natural consequence of post-stroke depression. Not hungry, I rasped. You have to eat, Gloria insisted. You need your strength. The hypocrisy. She knew what she was doing. She knew she was killing me piece by piece. I took the spoon with a trembling hand, pretending to eat, but only stirred the liquid. Gloria watched for a moment, then left Dot. As soon as her footsteps faded, I poured the soup into a dead plant pot on the windowsill. But food wasn't the main problem. The real issue was that I was alone, cut off from the world, and the only two people who knew I existed wanted me dead. I had to do something, but what? I could barely walk, my speech was impaired, I had no phone or internet. Gloria watched my every move. But they didn't know one thing. I was a Whitaker, and Whitakers never give up. That night, when Gloria went to bed downstairs, I summoned every ounce of strength and got out of bed. My legs shook like a newborn foal's. My right arm barely worked, but I forced myself to move. In Grandma's old desk, I found a worn phone book. There it was, the number for Jessica Morgan, my best friend from college. Jessica was the only person I trusted completely. We bonded as freshmen at the University of Chicago, both studying literature. After graduation, she went to law school, and I married David. We'd lost touch years ago. David didn't like my old friends, said they were a bad influence. Now I realized he'd been isolating me from anyone who might see his true nature. Jessica was a family law attorney in Boston. If anyone could help, it was her Dot. With trembling fingers, I dialed her number on the downstairs landline. Each ring felt like thunder. I was terrified Gloria would wake up. Hello? Jessica's sleepy voice. Jess, I croaked, my voice a ghostly whisper. It's Emma. A pause. Then, Emma, my God, what's wrong? You sound awful. Are you sick? I told her everything, the stroke, how David brought me to Grandma's house, Gloria's cruel care, the overheard call. Speaking was agony. Words stuck. I gasped for breath, but I forced out every sentence. That bastard, Jessica hissed when I finished. Emma, listen carefully. You're in danger. I'm coming to you right now. But it's 4 hours. I don't care if it's 10. You hang on, okay? I'll be there by dawn. Don't eat anything that woman gives you. Nothing, and stay away from her. If she suspects anything, pretend you're asleep. Jess, what if you don't make it? I will, she said, her voice like steel. I promise this story isn't over. The next 4 hours were the longest of my life. I returned to bed but couldn't sleep. Every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind made me jump. What if Gloria woke up? What if she realized I'd called? What if she decided to speed things up? At 4 a.m., I heard a car on the driveway, then a door slam, quick steps on the porch, a sharp knock. Jessica hadn't changed. Tall, chestnut hair in a tight bun, dressed in a dark business suit. Behind her stood a man with a medical bag. Gloria came downstairs in a robe, clearly annoyed by the early visit. Who are you? How dare you barge in at this hour? I'm Jessica Morgan, Emma Whitaker's attorney, Jessica said in a cold, professional tone. This is Dr. Harris, an independent medical expert. We're here to assess my client's condition and the quality of care she's receiving. You have no right. I have a power of attorney Emma granted me 3 years ago, Jessica said, pulling a document from her briefcase. Under Vermont law, in cases of potential incapacity, the designated agent can oversee treatment and care. Where is Mrs. Whitaker? Gloria tried to argue, but Jessica was already climbing the stairs. She entered the bedroom and stopped, seeing me. Oh God, Emma. Her voice broke. What have they done to you? I knew how I looked. In 3 weeks, I'd lost over 20 pounds. My cheeks were sunken, my eyes huge in my gaunt face. My hair was dull, falling out from malnutrition. Dr. Harris examined me in the bedroom while Jessica kept Gloria in check. He checked my pulse, blood pressure, eyes, lymph nodes. Severe malnutrition, he muttered, scribbling in a notebook. Dehydration, muscle atrophy, signs of deep depression. Mrs. Whitaker, when did you last eat properly? Don't remember, I admitted. Physical exercise, walks? Gloria wouldn't let me. Dr. Harris turned to Gloria, his face furious. This isn't medical care, this is deliberate neglect, possibly attempted murder. Gloria Steins, Jessica said icily. Your services are no longer needed. Pack your things and leave, now. But Mr. Whitaker said, Mr. Whitaker has no authority over Mrs. Whitaker's medical care. Under the law, a spouse can only make decisions if the patient is fully incapacitated. Dr. Harris can confirm Emma is fully competent to choose her own care, Gloria protested, but Jessica was relentless. Within half an hour, Gloria packed and left, but not before making several calls, likely to David. Emma, Jessica said, sitting beside me on the bed, you're safe now, but we need to move fast. David will likely try to gain guardianship, claiming you're incompetent. We have to stop him. I won't let him, I said, my voice firm for the first time in weeks. I know, and we'll prove it. Dr. Harris conducted a full psychiatric evaluation, asking about current events, simple math, memory. My mind was clear. Yes, my speech was impaired, my right side limited, but that didn't affect my decision-making. Mrs. Whitaker, he said, closing his notebook, you have typical post-stroke effects, but your cognitive functions are intact. With proper care, therapy, and nutrition, you could recover 80 to 90%. The regimen you've been subjected to was not just ineffective, it was criminal. Jessica stayed with me, waiting for the police. She insisted on calling local authorities to report what happened. I sat on the old couch in the living room, wrapped in Grandma's quilt, trying to process that I'd just escaped death. My hands still shook, but a spark of anger and determination burned in my chest. David and Gloria wanted to take everything. My life, my inheritance, my memories. But I wasn't giving up. Jessica paced, talking to colleagues at her Boston law firm. Her voice was calm but steely. Yes, I need all documents on Vermont marital property and inheritance laws, she said, and prepare a temporary restraining order against David Whitaker. He's not to come near my client until this is resolved. When she hung up, she sat beside me, placing a hand on my shoulder. Emma, I know you're scared, but we'll do this right. David won't escape accountability. We'll prove he and Gloria conspired to harm you. Dr. Harris is preparing a medical report confirming your condition worsened due to their actions. What about the inheritance? I asked, struggling with words. He wants to sell the house. Jessica frowned. This house and land are yours through your grandmother's will, right? You said she left it directly to you. I nodded. Yes. David has no rights. Then we have the upper hand, she said. Under Vermont law, a spouse can't claim property inherited by the other before marriage, unless it's joint property. If the will is in your name, David can't sell without your consent. But he was banking on you not being able to object. She paused, and I knew what she meant. If I died, he could have gained control as my spouse. That was his plan all along. An hour later, 2 Milford police officers arrived. A middle-aged man with tired eyes and a young woman with a short haircut. They listened to my story, took statements from Jessica and Dr. Harris. I tried to speak clearly, though every word was a struggle. They listened carefully, asking clarifying questions. Mrs. Whitaker, said the senior officer, Lieutenant Crow, will start an investigation. These are serious allegations, and we'll treat them with full attention. We'll also contact Gloria Steins for questioning. As for your husband, we can issue a temporary restraining order to keep him away until this is sorted. Thank you, I whispered Dot. After the police left, Jessica turned to me. Now we focus on your health. I found a top neurologist in Boston who specializes in post-stroke rehab. He's coming tomorrow for a consultation. But first, you need real food. She rummaged through the kitchen, finding cans and a box of pasta, and made me spaghetti with tomato sauce. It was my first proper meal in weeks, and I ate slowly, feeling strength return with each bite. Emma, Jessica said, watching me, you're stronger than you know. You survived a stroke. You survived betrayal. Now you're starting a new chapter. And I'll be with you every step. The next days were busy, but for the first time in ages, the bustle felt alive. Jessica stayed, coordinating everything from doctor visits to legal steps. The Boston neurologist, Dr. Lin, arrived the next day. He did a full exam and outlined a rehab plan: intensive physical therapy, speech therapy, balanced nutrition, vitamins, and medications to rebuild muscle. Your body's suffered from malnutrition, he said kindly, but you're young and your brain can still recover. Follow my plan, and in 6 months you could walk unaided and your speech will be nearly normal. Those words were my beacon. I clung to them like a lifeline. Jessica hired a new caretaker, Linda, the opposite of Gloria. Warm, patient, and genuinely caring, Linda helped with exercises, cooked delicious meals, and sang old songs while we worked on my speech. With her, I felt human again, not a victim. Meanwhile, Jessica launched a legal battle against David. She filed a lawsuit for attempted murder based on my testimony and Dr. Harris's report. The police found Gloria in a motel near the state line. She turned on David for a lighter charge, admitting he'd promised her $50,000 to care for me in a way that made my death look natural. David was arrested a week later in Chicago. He denied everything, but the evidence was overwhelming. Call logs to Gloria, bank transfers to her account, even a draft contract with a developer ready to buy the land for a shopping mall. Jessica also found he'd forged a will to inherit everything if I died. The trial was grueling, but I insisted on attending. I sat in the courtroom, still leaning on a cane, but with my head held high. When David looked at me, I didn't look away. I wanted him to know I survived. I won. The court found him guilty of conspiracy to commit murder and fraud. He faced up to 20 years in prison. Gloria got 5 with possible parole for cooperating. After the trial, I returned to Grandma's house. It no longer felt abandoned. Linda helped me clean the windows, fix the porch, and pull weeds from the garden. I even started reviving Grandma's rose garden, planting new bushes of her beloved English variety. Each morning, I sat on the porch with coffee, watching the sunrise. My right hand still trembled. My speech occasionally faltered, but I felt myself coming back to life. I wasn't the Emma who lay helpless on the kitchen floor. I was the Emma who survived betrayal and found the strength to start over. Jessica visited often. One day, she brought wine and an old college photo album. We sat in the garden, laughing at our old hairstyles and reminiscing about dreams of changing the world. You've already changed your world, Emma, she said, raising her glass, and this is just the beginning. I smiled, looking at the first rosebuds blooming in the garden. This was my garden, my home. My life, and I knew I'd never let anyone take it from me again. Dear viewers, thank you for watching Emma's incredible story of survival and strength. Please leave a comment below telling me where you're watching from. And if this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more powerful stories. Your support means the world.